All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, as you may have already known if you're following on with Cameron's stuff, we made a video recently where we're trying to go 8s with this on stock bottom end with the 4L80E and all of the other fixins and the billet S480, and we're trying cam, converter, and a bunch of things to reach that goal. He has gone 920s, so we keep pushing and pushing, and today is the aftermath of the trial to go 8s again, still. So here is the video passes and some pictures and a long interview with Cameron at the end for you people who love to hear all of the aforementioned data and all of the good stuff. Okay, so this is the post video file and overlay play video, and this is the
extravaganza.
The interview now. Can you see me on the camera through Skype?
No, I just see a Sloppy Mechanics logo, like picture in picture.
I wonder why it won't show me on the picture.
I just see me. I'm vain though, so that's good. So I can just see myself the whole time.
Turn video off. You know why? I think it's because it's using mine for the capture system. You know what I mean? I'm using a whole program to capture this right now, and I think that has priority, so that's fine.
Okay.
Anyway, it all looks good on the rest of my screen. So this is the post-interview. So Cameron, you went out on, what day was it? I don't have it.
So
3/23/19.
Yeah, a week ago today, yeah.
So Cameron went out, and I made a video that we were attempting to go 8s, working on this and slowly upgrading things as we go. And I think I said in the last video you did like 4 converter swaps to get to the point where you and I are happy with it.
Yeah, that took a while. We'll touch on that, the converters.
And then the big change was we did a camshaft swap. And there's obviously some people who are upset and not upset about this, or some people that might not,
confused, or everybody's throwing their Jarrett cam out and buying a BTR cam.
Yeah, they might not understand why we did it.
Yeah.
So we were pretty sure the turbo is capped because you came out swinging on spray and then upped your spray and then didn't go any faster.
Nothing happened. Yep.
So we're like, we're gonna put a cam in it. A more turbo specific, or at least a better known
for single, yeah. Because the old one that Jarrett did, I told him is for twins because we had twins.
Yes. So we'll start from the beginning.
Yeah.
The camshaft you had was for a twin turbo 5.3 build that you had, and it was custom spec by Jarrett. And then you went 6 liter, and then you went single turbo. So it's not idealistic for your setup. So what was an off-shelf BTR Stage 2 that Richard Holdener sent you to use so we could see the difference. So that's why it was more of an investigation than...
Yeah, because it was going to be an easy swap because me and my buddy Michael did it in like an hour and a half, 2 hours, because luckily the turbo kit, like the hot side, was above where the cam height was,
Yeah.
and the intercooler was below it. So literally all we had to do was pull the radiator and the front cover, and we had it in and out in like 2 hours.
Yeah, perfect.
So yeah, so that worked out.
And then, so you went right to the track and you came out swinging, and you didn't have spray, but you went
Yeah,
the same
that's a
nine.
funny story.
Yeah, you open and close your friend.
Yeah.
You open and close
Rory.
the bottle, and then Rory opened and closed the bottle,
Yeah.
and then
And
you
because we put it in, tightened it up, and he's like, I'm gonna open it, make sure it's, has integrity, it's not leaking. And he opened it up, and he's like, oh, it sounds good. I thought he just left it open, but so there was just nitrous on the line. So we went out there, and then it went 920, 9.2 at like 148.
yeah.
And I was like immediately frustrated because, we'll backtrack really quick to the end of 2018. I had the Jarrett cam in there, and we sauced it with like a little 31 jet, just a 35 shot, and we were having overboost issues because I only had a 3-bar at the time, and you were telling me, you were like, just turn it off, and I'm like, I can't, like, I don't want to park a blown up car for the winter. So
it was very close. Yes.
So the first pass, I don't know if Matt will post they're already in the video, whatever, but the time slips of Jarrett's.
Okay, Jarrett's stuff. I have that right here.
Yeah, show Jarrett's. It went like a 590 to the eighth, and then the quarter sucked because it overboosted, because we had the overboost set up at like 29.
Yep.
Yeah, it
105 mile an hour is the big thing.
Yeah, well, but it went 120 to the eighth that pass.
120.57.
Yeah, so that it actually trapped better with Jarrett's cam, but that day is different weather. It was like 0 DA that day.
All the above.
So somewhat comparable, but not. But it still trapped better that day. And then the only good quarter pass we got where it didn't overboost, it was slower to the eighth because we had a bottle pressure problem. So it's like,
118, 594 at 118, and then went 924 at 149.
Yeah, so, and the days were different. So, but that pass was like 27-ish, 28. It was riding the overboost.
And then the third pass, again, it tickled overboost, and you coasted at 960 at 103. Again, almost the same as the first.
Yeah, and then that whole time because I hung out with Richard and Brian Tooley at LS Fest for a little bit, and they were like, yeah, you should try this cam, and Richard gave it to me for free. So that one was on the shelf, and I was like, I'll just put it in over the winter, and then we'll come out in the spring, do the same thing, apples to apples. And then that's what we did last weekend. So the first backtrack to where we were, the first pass, I thought it had nitrous open, and I get my time slip, and it says the 9.2 at 148. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, I was spraying this whole pass. It was supposed to go so much faster. And I get back and looking at my logs, and the intake air temperatures was still like 150 degrees. And I'm like, either the solenoid didn't open, my bottle was closed or something. And I went and checked the trunk, and the bottle was closed. And that's when I hit you up. I was like, we're about to go really fast.
Yes.
So then I cranked the bottle open, went out there. It felt good. I love it when people are like, I knew I was on one. It's like, no, you didn't. Because it felt good, and I get my time slip, and it's still a 920 at a mile an hour more. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, I just opened the bottle, and it went like barely any faster. I should have been spraying like 100 horsepower of nitrous.
Yeah.
When we start looking at the data, it's like 47 PSI back pressure, 300 degree pre or turbo outlet temperature just pegged. Yes. Before that, we're at the 330. So I was like, well, the track was taking everything I was throwing at it, because I'm still trying to creep up on it because I'm new to the ET Pro. That tire just keeps taking more and more. So I left on more timing, and with the third pass, I was like, well, I only like doing 3 passes. That's just like my little thing. I'm like, man, it's a stock bottom end. The car weighs 4,000 pounds. We're cramming 1,000 pounds of fuel into it. I just don't like pushing more than 3 passes in a day, personally.
It always has seemed to live with 3, so why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, why chance it? That's just my little idiosyncrasy or whatever you want to call it. So the third pass, I had 4 jets, and Matt sent me like 4 or 5 jets. So we had a whole plethora of jets to go through. I was like, well, let's take the 31 jet out, throw a 35 jet. That would show, in theory, like 15 to 20 horsepower. So I'm like, we should be able to see a 15 to 20 horsepower gain. and I went out there and it actually ET'd worse. If you look on the
Yes, I'm looking at the three in a row. I have it on the screen in between us. It's a
yeah,
925, no
yep,
spray, and then it's a
yep,
929 with the small jet, and
yep,
then a 930 with
yep,
the larger jet. So it slowed down every pass with more spray.
with more, yep,
And
and
you
that,
have a lockup converter, and it has proved to be very efficient. So that
yep,
is not the problem. The problem is we're backing up the exhaust side worse by adding nitrous.
yeah,
That's for people that aren't following along yet.
yeah. So when we were like, yes, the BTR cam went quicker on less boost, but we still the turbo is the cap, and and then also if you looked at all our straps, I wasn't even reading timing. I think uh, last year with Jarrett's cam,
I don't think we
uh,
even looked at a plug, no. So this time I'm
mm-mm,
like, please buy at least like 4 new plugs and do one and then
per
check it every
pass.
pass. Yeah.
So um, yeah, so the whole like not I don't want to say argument, but like the which one's better, maybe a smaller cam you can put more timing in it, so it's like six of one, half dozen of the other. So basically we found that the turbo is the limit for now with the fuel that we were using. So one more trick up our sleeve. We're gonna Matt's idea. I got a can of some C16. We're gonna get the my 10-gallon or 12-gallon cell run down a little bit, and then just dunk the whole 5 gallons of C16 in,
Yeah.
and put 2, 3,
And then
4,
what I wanted to
whatever.
show is I have your log open where it shows 25.6 pounds of boost and 46 pounds of back pressure. And then people can see this is on the no nitrous pass, as you can tell. Turbo outlet temperature is 302 degrees.
That's
And
pegged
then,
right. That's max for that sensor,
yeah, I
isn't it? So
believe so. I
so
mean,
it's higher than that, and it does that from like the 330 on. So God only knows what the actual IAT or
actually,
pre
I think
intercooler.
on this pass it creeps. I can open the log, but it knocks about 150 degrees out of it with the intercooler, so it's 153 through the manifold. But that's at 149 mile an hour at 6,700 RPM, and everything else is looking good. And then when he pulled his plug, it was very conservative looking, at least in our opinion. Right? There's all
Yeah,
sorts
that's
of
all it
opinions
is.
on the
That's all it
internet,
is. An opinion. Yep. We
but
don't. We're just some idiots.
this plug looks fantastic in my opinion for what it is. So that's
Yeah.
why we were like, wow, we were probably leaving a little bit on the table, but that's nice to know because most of the
But
time you drive this car to the track, but recently
I bought a truck.
you have a nice truck, and so you have been
Yeah.
towing it because we understand that after 2 years, this thing
We're
might
gonna
not
crap
even
something.
it might not even let go. We've had the conversation many times. It might not even let go because it was a bad tune-up or we were pushing it too hard. It could just be cumulative stress over the years.
There's an engineer term for that, I think, where it's like something technical. Somebody will post it in the comment section, but it's basically that, like when John Capizzi's engine let go, he was cramming 40 or 35, 40 pounds through it for years, and then finally I think he posted on Facebook, like did like one little test hit on like 18 pounds, and it shit the rods,
Yeah,
and it's
I
like
mean,
wasn't a bad tune. It was just time to go.
it was just time. But
Yep.
the other uh, the other thing to note is it pretty much ran the same times. I mean,
Regardless.
if you want to be totally even playing field on this, it technically ran the same times with the other cam, with the other spray on. I don't think we were not spraying it.
We never didn't spray, so that's a question we'll never
It's
know the answer to.
questionable if it would have
If
gone
we
in.
didn't spray, maybe
Were we gaining?
arguably
I don't know. The one thing we
it could have
can
been
tell for
quicker.
sure, yeah, it was making more boost with the smaller cam, which makes more sense. It
Yep.
made slightly less boost to run the same times, maxed out with the slightly larger cam, but all of that adds up. But the rest of it is pretty even keel. Spray, no spray, it's all running the same time. So what we did learn is that we are pretty much at the limit of this 88 turbine and running this fast at this weight. So like I said to Cameron, and he mentioned it earlier, a couple people might have missed it, it's running on E85, which technically has 38% roughly, at least 30% with the scale you're using. Because you're at like 70% alcohol or something.
E70, E75 roughly.
Yeah, so people say that going from E0, like non-ethanol gasoline, to straight E85, you need approximately 35 to 38% more fuel flow. So he's not there yet. Technically, pump gas now is about 10%, and he's at about 70%. So just to clear up all of the exacts for people. So this
because somebody will lose it that we're
like,
using
no
these
way,
numbers.
It's 40, and some guy's gonna be like, no way,
41.
It's 29%.
People are ready to fight.
Yeah, they're ready
to throw hands,
throw down. But anyway,
God.
So what we're thinking is an easy way to test if we're backing up the turbine is, since ethanol uses more volume and energy in the exhaust, it also helps spool larger turbos. At the same time, it'll run a turbine out sooner than straight gasoline will, because it has less physical need, less fuel flow and less exhaust energy. So
ironic that ethanol is now the problem.
It's funny, yes. So to quickly test this, what he's going to do is he's going to run his tank about halfway down and dump C16 in. And for fun, we're going to add, since the plugs look safe on no spray, he's going to make a back-to-back pass from the 924 with about 3 more degrees in it on mostly C16, hopefully, and we can hopefully see the ethanol content down. And what'll be interesting is, since he has a back pressure sensor, if back pressure comes down because of using less exhaust gas energy, because of using a gasoline fuel. So that'll be since he has all the sensors hooked up, that's what we're looking to see. And if that's the case, then we know we're absolutely limited on the turbine, which we're 99% sure of anyway. But that will confirm it all and hopefully nick him like close to an 8-second pass.
Yeah, it'll be neat to see. It'll be neat to see. I'm not holding my breath. I don't know if we'll see like a half a tenth improvement or like a tenth and a half, or like, I'm sure, and we'll probably be able to leave on more power then, because I keep creeping up on that. So it won't really be apples to apples as far as ET goes, because I might try to
tell us how much power you're making.
And the back pressure, we'll see if that's helped, or the turbo outlet temperature. See if the turbo outlet wouldn't really be as affected as the back pressure would, because that's going to be.
No, I think that would be turbo outlet temperature would be best if you swap to another turbo that's supposedly a more efficient wheel, should generate less heat. In theory. So that's the whole thing. I mean, he plans to do a turbo upgrade eventually on this anyway, guys. So that'll be the neat thing we see also, is back pressure down, turbo outlet temperature down, everything working not as hard, and then power coming up as, an entire straight line, thing of this. So next. I think next is a bigger turbo. Yeah, right. Yeah, other than if you want to tell them what you plan to go to a larger turbo.
Yeah, I'll probably get one of those. It's a S400 frame, isn't it? The one we were talking about maybe getting from Jose.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to. Maybe we can ask him. I don't know if it's still a 400, because I think it's like it's some sort of gangster swap shit that Jose does. It might even be like a GT50 with a S400 nose. But anyway, he sells an 85 millimeter turbo that's pretty popular, and he has been paving the way with like a 102 millimeter turbine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're saying, like 102 and then like 91 on the small side or something like that.
Yeah, it's like a 100 turbine, because I mentioned all this to him and I was like, what can we do? And he's like, honestly, a lot of it is ineffective. I like how he jumped right for the throat. He was like, realistically, all of the 96 to 88 whatever slope or straight turbine, not worth your time. Go straight to the 100
big boy,
or the 102. Don't fuck around. And I was like, that's what I want to hear.
Because 4 years ago we thought a 78, 75 was, oh man, we're gonna be laggy. Yeah. 4 or 5 years ago, whatever it was.
And then the
Now
other
it's like,
part of me is
let's
like,
put a GT55 on it. What are we waiting on?
I mean, even a year or two ago, I'm like, I'll never be able to max out an 80, 88 billet on a stock bottom end. I wouldn't keep
And
my rods in, and here you are.
here we are,
This shit is
4,000
bend
pounds.
all the time, closing in on. I mean, it's been. You've had it together for
2.5 years,
but it
I
has
blew it.
been at least 900 wheel for a year.
Yeah.
And it's 3 passes every other weekend when the weather's nice, and you drive it to. I mean, 99% of the time you have driven it to the track, and it won't give up. And now you're spraying on top of it, and you're maxing it out, and we have back pressure data to prove it's over 2-to-1. So there's basically, there's nothing left here where people are like, turn it up. You're like,
But
it's
all,
fucking.
all we could do is cram a little more timing in it, which I just don't want to do right. I mean, we're going to do it with the C16. I could have just been like, hey, let's trickle a degree in it,
Yeah, I'm
But
more curious to see the straight up timing thrown at it too, because I believe we left 2 degrees on the table on your pass, and then C16 is 116 octane at least, and ethanol like E85 on a gas scale is 105, is what people say, at least what I've read. You guys can combat that in the comments if you feel like.
No, they will. Oh, they will. No, it's 106.7.
Most
Get
people,
it right.
most people at this point surprisingly don't argue. But from what I've read,
It's because we mock them before they argue,
yes,
because they realize how dumb they sound. You have to
yeah.
preemptively
I've said
make
that to
somebody
my
feel
friends
dumb.
that own shops, because they're like, don't people bash like after you two? I'm like, no. I've already done 40 videos highlighting how people are idiots, so they pretty much think they are before they argue most of the time.
You just beat them to the punch. Call yourself dumb before they do, and then they're like, "Well, I can't tell you you're dumb because you already said it."
I'm not a professional, so say whatever you guys want since you're professionals. But yeah,
exactly.
So this it'll be really interesting to test. So he's gonna buy a $80 5-gallon thing of C16 and splash it in there, and hopefully the content comes down enough. Like he said, I don't know if he mentioned this. I said drain the whole thing and put 5 gallons of C16 in, so it's straight. So it's like almost 0 E.
Maybe I'll have another good week at work and just buy another can and just fill it up. Because I think I want to try the 8th first, because that's what I normally do. Is I get it ironed out in the 8th mile, even though the quarter mile has an 8th in front of it.
But you never know if you're gonna have some stupid shit issue.
Exactly. Like break something, and then you're like, wow, I just drove an hour and a half for no reason.
Something dumb like you dumped 5 gallons of straight C in there, and it came down to like 58%, and you're like, well,
you're like, that's not enough. Yep.
I'm F'd in the B right now.
Yeah, so I'll probably, if weather's nice, I'll probably go to the local 8th mile, as I've just been busy with a lot of stuff with work and family and stuff this last week. So if the weather's nice, we'll probably go to the local 8th mile at Clarksville this Friday.
Well, you'll see the story between because
now and then.
I'm loading up your pass here, and it showed a 594 at 118.
Yep.
So if we see a difference, and then we see a much better data log out of that as far as back pressure, what I'll do quick is I'll open the data log for him in Holly software. That's a 930 pass. Let me do the 924, 925 at 148 first pass. Here we go. So I'll load this up for him quick, and then I will we'll zoom in on the pass here. So you launched.
What's the IAT do right there? Does there a little bit from the lines where we had the bottle open, or was that already cold?
What I'm going to see here is
rather.
right at the launch, you're launching at 3,500 on 6 pounds of boost. It already has 8 pounds of back pressure. Turbo outlet temperature is 123, and manifold temperature is 75.
Not bad.
An injector, where are we at on injector? 18%, laughable. So by the time it hits second gear here, second gear. So we're in second gear, 18 pounds, 32 pounds of back pressure. Turbo outlet is already 164, and manifold is 78. So it's doing really good.
It's scrubbing a lot, yeah.
It's doing amazing. You have the 5-inch VS. You measured it.
Yeah.
I told people it was a 4-inch.
And I knew it was big. The story of my life. I was like, it's got to be another inch.
It's in there.
Got to be in.
By third gear, 6,500, it says 86 mile an hour. So you weren't even at the 8th. It was already at 23 pounds, 42 pounds of back pressure, and turbo outlet is at 244 degrees, 100-degree manifold temperature.
So it's like the VS turbo just pulls 150, at least in my setup, which is awesome, because it was towards the end, doesn't it get up to like 300 something, and then it's still...
Yeah, let's take, I'll go right to the end here where it says 302 outlet.
Pegged.
It's pegged.
Pegged.
You're right. If I scroll back, it hits 299 at 122 miles an hour. So at the 8th, it's technically
About the
pegging
8th.
the outlet temperature.
I wonder how high it gets.
What's interesting, is it's scrubbing more than 150 degrees, technically, because you're gaining at your launch here. You're at 122 at the launch, and then at the end it's pegged. So here you're at 123, like 2.8 seconds in. So let's double that. So 2.8 is almost 3. So about 6 seconds in, you're at 240.
So it went from 130 something to 240.
2 times the temperature in 3 seconds.
Jeez.
So at 9 seconds, you're at 300 degrees. So you went from, I can figure it out really quick, like bullshit, sloppy math. 124, 240.
Hell, it could be at 360 by the quarter mile.
I would estimate at least 360, and then it was scrubbing down to...
Put your oven at 350 degrees and open it. Feel that.
It was scrubbing down to 155, so it could have been knocking 200 degrees out of it.
So it's a very good intercooler for the... I can't remember what Vrin sold it to me for. I know it was way cheaper than retail.
And then anyway, like we discussed also, guys, for Cameron to put a ambient temperature sensor, so another...
all the inputs.
Since he has a Dominator, he can put 150 inputs on the damn thing. We've been trying to do it, actually, because that's where we're learning a lot. And it would be interesting for you to do an ambient temperature sensor. We talked about putting one in the bumper before the intercooler and the transcooler and everything. Like stock cars have an ambient temperature sensor like way in the nose of the grill.
Yeah, like where like you get your like in the overhead console.
Yeah.
Temperature, like
most interesting people is what's called the delta, which is the change between all of these numbers. It's not the fact that his inlet temperature seems high, it's the fact that it's scrubbing half the temperature out of it. So if you want to see ambient, you want to see turbo outlet, and you want to see manifold, and the difference between all of them to know how hard it's working.
I wonder how fast, if you could put like a mile per hour sensor like on the lateral rails and the intercooler, how fast the air is. Some engineer will post in the comment section how fast the air is moving through intercooler.
You could put a GM mass airflow sensor like an LS3, and it would tell you pounds per minute in frequency.
I'm sure I know there's a way, because you can do anything with math. You'd be like, okay, well, there's 14 rails in the surface areas.
Per minute of airflow. If you calibrated the sensor for the size pipe you're using, and you put a GM calibrated stock MAF in there for the size piping, you could technically see, and now that would add up, on a stock LS car, I can basically tell you what the car makes power-wise. If it has an unmolested mass air meter table and calibration, and say the car is flowing 50 pounds a minute, it's technically 500 flywheel.
Oh.
So if it's flowing 60 pounds a minute or 64 pounds per minute, you multiply that by 640 flywheel.
Gotcha.
But most of the time you end up biffing some of that stuff, but not on late model stuff because the MAF calibration is gigantic. Only older stuff, you end up biffing the MAF table. But you could do that. So it's funny you suggested that arbitrarily. And we could easily jam an LS3 MAF in your piping and measure airflow.
Somebody in the comment section has done it already.
They
can tell us.
Honestly, if you wanted to be really weird about it, you could put a MAF on the inlet of the turbo. You could put a MAF on the outlet of the turbo. And you could put a MAF before the throttle body. And if they were all set up linear, had a decent amount of flow and no jaggies, you could see ingested pounds per minute, flowing pounds per minute, and restricted pounds per minute.
Jeez.
After the intercooler, if you wanted to be really weird about it.
FBI, stay right where you are.
Yeah, so just people that like data, you could do all of that weird shit. So I guess that's the summary. Is it doesn't
Yeah,
matter what you're throwing at it right now. It's turbine limited. All you
done.
found out was the camshaft adjusted the amount of boost it took to reach the
And the
limitation.
power band too, kind of because Jarrett's went a couple quicker to the eighth. So, but
Yes, as we do know, Jared is good at building an average horsepower cam, one that foot brakes well and makes a good amount of average power, not very peaky.
because he goes 820s foot brake when he went in drag week 5 years ago.
Yeah, whenever he
Back,
wants to.
yeah, and it just makes it look easy. Back going almost sevens at what I think he was like 34 or 3500, and then it took all the. I don't want to like sound like I'm disparaging, but like when lighter cars started putting stock bottom ends and spinning them to the moon, of course they're going to go quicker than Jarrett's old car. But
Yeah.
I know his at the time, I'm pretty sure was the quickest and fastest stock bottom end, and then he was doing it 3,400 pounds, and then all the. God, I love when people are like, oh, the pro mods. It's like you sound like a hater, but when the lighter, I mean, it's like every bit of technology it advances, and people are like, well, maybe we could just spin it even higher. Oh yeah, that's what we should talk about is the converters. And I think we've mentioned it before, how we keep or how we keep this alive.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a good subject. I think I've touched on it before, and what
But
we've learned is, I mean, people say it all the time, but it's absolutely true, and I found it to be true also. Is keeping the power band higher. I mean, Jose, Caesar, a lot of people will tell you this is the torque is what kills the engine, and if you
timing in at low torque or big timing in at low RPMs.
If you keep the power out of below peak torque and just throw it in while the motor's singing, there's less stress. A lot of people don't understand that.
They get afraid of RPM. They're like, oh my God,
it might seem counterintuitive.
8,000 RPMs.
Spin the shit out of it and throw all the power out of it. But it's funny if you consider everything stays loaded for a shorter amount of time at a higher RPM.
Yeah, because piston speed's higher. It doesn't stay at top dead center of the dwell time, all that crazy stuff that some engine builder is losing their mind as I talk about it right now because I'm wrong.
Yeah. But I mean, I've learned it too. Like I used to be like Gen 3 is going to blow. I'll admit I did a flat like tabletop timing tables. And it's mostly because I had shitty converters and a small turbine, and it didn't matter.
And it didn't matter.
It didn't matter. So what I learned on my own is it didn't matter. And then as I had cars that were capable of more power down low, I could fold the rods out of them on command. And now this is something that import guys
knew for 20 years probably.
Yeah, they're like, you put 2 degrees of timing into that thing until 5,500, and then you smash it with like 18 degrees. And that's where it makes all of its power. Because Ryan Gary at Area 1320 is like, I can take a completely stock Subaru that'll take 400 horsepower to all 4 wheels on my dyno all day and squirt a rod. Like on command, I can just put too much ignition down low and biff the engine apart. But it'll handle 400 wheel up top all day long. It's just the rod can take the stress. And I think those cars are funny where they're not necessarily knock or octane limited down low. They are rod limited. They're torque limited. So that's
they'll fold or split the block in two, right? I think you're telling me he can either break the transmission or burp rods.
All of the above. But the thing is, he has to torque limit them. So once it makes peak torque, he can smash the thing with tons of horsepower, and it's fine.
Yeah, that's
why what a lot of people don't realize is all the cylinder pressure is at peak torque.
Just if you've got a turbo LS and it's a stock bottom end, just get a really loose triple disc. That's all you got to do.
And like don't lock it too early because that's
don't lock it too early.
But yeah, the big thing is people say roughly stay away from like 750 foot-pounds of the tire, which you could conservatively cut that to like 650 to the tire, depending on the dyno and everything else, obviously. But a lot of times, if your combo is worth anything up top, you can spark limit yourself to that torque number and then smash it all in up top, and you'll be surprised how long it lives. And then the whole other thing, which I mean, what we attempted to start this conversation on 3 minutes ago was the converter plays a big part in that, where it has to come up high enough. If you get your converter just right, your converter will bypass all of these issues also. I mean, you want your tune to be like soft in that area, but if your converter comes up and hits 6,000 and hangs and pulls nice to a high 6K, and then
That's the jam zone.
on the shift point, if it falls to 5,800 and pulls nice through 6 again, it's perfect. Like, huge thumbs up, because there's plenty of converters that seem to do well in first gear, and you throw the 1-2 and they go to like 4,200, and then that's where you're going to hurt shit.
Fold shit.
Because you're at full power, and then you put the thing up against a wall in 2 or 3, and it drags the engine down. And what would have been, a fairy tale story of you going fast ends up you with a shovel at the track.
Yeah, and then you I've done it. You give LS motors a bad name because
like, oh, they just come apart. They're junk.
Yeah, because everybody with slow cars that just doesn't do anything and judges everybody. It's like, ha, I knew it. And then they show the GIF of the Johnny Knoxville dicks blowing up. Oh, that's what happens when LSs blow up.
And now what's the biggest slap in the face is your car, obviously, because of the weight. Because we don't really know any big. I mean, there's some people doing it. Like Caesar has some customers with trucks.
Everything he touches makes 1,000 horsepower.
See, there's the thing. He dynos high, and people are like, "Oh, I wonder what it runs."
And then he goes fast.
The full size truck goes high 8, and he's like, And what do you say?
How about them apples?
What about it? What do you? The thing throws
like,
down
all right.
$150 or $160, and you're like, "Oh, okay."
All right,
my friend's truck makes 1,100 and traps 130, and that truck made 900 and went 160.
I got in an argument one time at a car show. Some guy's like, "This car makes 1,000 horsepower." Well, this is like before it did, when it was like twins, the twin 70s. I'm like, "No, it doesn't." And he's like, "This car makes 1,000 horsepower." I'm like, "No, it doesn't." And he's like, "Well, so like talking about
your car, people might not get that. He was pointing at Cameron's car and saying it makes over 1,000 horsepower.
I'm like, "No, it doesn't." He's like, "Well, I saw this car and it makes 1,000 horsepower." I'm like, "Well, that person lied to you." I'm like, "Mine probably makes 800 and change." And like, it was hilarious because some young guy was like, "The truth comes out," because it just kills me when people say they make 1,300 or something, and it's like a freaking nugget at the track. It's like, just go plug it in. If you want to know what kind of power I make, it weighs 4,020 and it goes 924 to 149. Yeah. That's all you got to do. And you go Wallace Racing Calculator. It'll tell you exactly roughly what it makes.
And I mean, I've done a bunch of these combos now, like a 6-liter, a BTR2, and Varen's Billet 80, and they all stick around that 990 wheel. So, I mean, we technically know approximately what yours makes, but it hasn't been on a dyno since you brought it to mine like 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, when it was still Mega Squirt and twins.
Yeah, there's been a lot of changes, but yeah, that's the big thing, guys, is keeping the torque away from the mid range, down low with the tune-up, keeping the torque out of the mid range with the setup, with the converter, with the turbo. So that's why you see a lot of guys now with a relatively small engine and what seems like a gigantic turbo flying. And then what they've
because I bet you they're swinging at 7,500 RPMs, and the converter probably drops to just under 7,000 on the shift.
Yeah, and I mean, what they learned is keeping that thing swinging. The horse, like, it's just like the turbo Honda thing. People are like, "Oh, it makes no torque." Well, it makes all of its power from 6 to 9,000 RPM, and horsepower is what makes a car go fast. So torque doesn't really do anything other than if you have like an 18-wheeler and you're pulling stuff. So then you'll notice it. But once 700 horsepower comes online, it's 700 horsepower. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So I can't think of anything else I wanted to mention other than
I think it's covered. We're at 36 minutes. I think we covered pretty much everything.
I hope some people are just super mad about all the wrong things we said.
We'll see. That's what the comments do. They find all that stuff and let you know. Fortunately.
It's good to know. I try to learn something every day. I'm sure they'll probably teach me something.
Maybe. Every now and then you get somebody in there that's pretty smart, surprisingly, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, cool. At least we have all that. And hopefully a 38-minute long after show is really nice for people. So I'll work on overlaying your videos and then posting your passes. And I think I'll do Well, I'll do 1 or 2 overlays. It takes so long to line up it looks incredible. It's awesome, but it takes so long
Yeah,
to line those up.
yeah, because you got to find the 0 point and all
You can
that
tell if
stuff.
it's off by like an eighth of a second, or like because the fucking pass is so short, you can tell
Oh
right
yeah.
away. Like you launch, and then it still shows you like banging the two-step for like a microsecond. People are like, oh, blah blah blah.
Oh, another thing worth mentioning on the second and third pass, we were fighting that issue with it going through the power band so fast that it wanted to shift first to third. You
Yes,
remember?
after the cam change, he had to. You can see on some of the logs here, guys. It wanted to shift third like immediately. So if you look
Yeah,
at this,
it was the
I'm moving it over
second and
right
third
now.
pass is when it was the
You can
second and
see
third
here,
pass when
guys,
it did it.
it's in second gear for not very long, and then it's in third forever, which didn't really seem
Kill.
like it didn't really seem like it killed you because your converter is big enough, so it was in third, just hanging out.
But it's
But
probably worth. I know Scott Brown said his junk slowed down a whole bunch.
yes,
It slowed down some. We don't know how much.
I
Maybe
agree
a
too.
half a tenth.
Getting it out of first faster and letting it sit in second longer will help everything. It'll help the
Yep.
converter. It'll help the fluid couple. It should help
Because it
acceleration too.
normally second will almost get me to the eighth. Normally second will get me to like 50 feet before the eighth, and then it's third for the most of the back half, and then it locks the converter at about the 1,000 foot on, and that's when it starts freight training. So
Yeah,
we'll never know, but we learn something new every day. Just command the 1-2 shift a little bit earlier
yeah.
because,
It was
and
in
it's
second gear at 84 miles an hour, and you hit eighth at like at least 118 on those passes.
yep,
So you were 40 mile an hour early
yep.
for people that aren't doing the math. 40
So
mile an hour early on the 1-2 shift or the 2-3 shift.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, there's maybe a little bit left on the table, maybe not. Time will tell.
so when we go out with the C16, we'll get the shift timing straightened up and put some more timing in it, and hopefully lower all those things, and we'll look like rock stars because that's what we like to do is make 4 changes at once, and then you
Yes,
get a big
totally
improvement.
not what I would tell anybody else to do. But Cam
No,
has really good luck making about 5 changes at once, which is
yeah,
normally catastrophic for people. And it comes out okay on the other side. You already
but
adjusted the tune-up for the shifts. You commanded the 1-2
yep,
earlier to be in second longer.
yep, and then you stretched out the 2-3 as well because it looked like with the Holly, it looked like it went 1-2, and since it didn't complete the shift, Holly got mad and was like, "Well, the RPMs are still kind of high. Now I'm at the point where I want to be in third gear, so it's like I'll command third right now too." So it's like 1, 2, 3. So
Yeah,
maybe
I've seen
commanding it a
similar
little bit.
happen. Like first time I iron out ADE bass tunes with something nobody else used, it'll hit third. Like you'll foot brake and leave, and it's like third because it just sees RPM or whatever. So it's one of those
Hmm.
things you have to adjust. But that's what's cool about
Uh,
giving everybody bass tunes that are sorted.
another reason to leave power out of the mid range. So if it does shift first to third, you're not folding rods at 80 miles an hour when it drops to 4,700 RPMs or whatever it dropped to.
Yeah, this
So
you clicked third pretty early, and it only went to 6,400.
on the 2-3.
64, 65 at the lowest on the 2-3. So
Yeah, we commanded that later. I think I adjusted that to just like shift it like 66, so then maybe it'll complete the shift by like 67, 67.50, 68 maybe.
but yeah, if you
So
see yours hit third gear at 6,500, and it held. Actually, it did dip. I'm sorry, it did dip. It did dip to like 5,900.
are you looking at the first pass,
The
the
first pass.
920?
So like I
Yep,
was
that's
telling
the
people,
only.
you want to stay above that 5,800 mark to keep the car rolling. So he noticed almost no loss in acceleration on his pass because it didn't go any lower than 5,800. And then your lockup kicked in and dunked it right back down to 5,800 again. From at 130, it locked up and went to 5,900.
I might even command that a little bit later
Yeah,
because
you could set that because I mean,
maybe 130 because
it'd be
it
nice to
was commanded
stay
at
above
125.
6,000 on everything.
Yep,
But that might
especially
happen
locking
later.
the converter. because it might make more power and it might
Exactly.
it might
That whole
all
fucking thing.
that stuff. But yeah, we just I don't want to say we make it look easy because like people come to me all the time at the track and they're like, man, this is so fast. I'm like, man, I've owned the car for this one for
Yeah.
8 years. And
It's
it's like
consistent enough that we're looking
cumulative.
at stupid data like the back pressure and like everything else. So
Yeah, it's almost a decade of busted knuckles and trial and error and cabinets full of blown up pistons and rods. So
yes.
that's why I don't tell people what to do. If somebody asks me what to do, I might make a suggestion, but really it's none of my business to tell anybody what to do with their car because you can't deny people their pain. I've learned so many lessons from shitting rods because I didn't know what I was doing, and you got to learn from your mistakes. At least I've tried to. So
Yeah, a couple times
I've learned.
you can tell somebody something, and then until they egg a piston 6 times, and they're like, "Shit."
I've learned if you're making new mistakes, you're making progress. So
yeah, obviously true.
I'll leave you with that life's lesson. Get all philosophical.
All right. So I'll put these passes in. We're at 43 minutes or 44 almost. So it'll be an hour video with my edits on the passes and stuff.
Oh boy.
So I hope people enjoy that. There's information overload on this one.
Yep. So I don't think I got anything else. I'll get out of here before we're here all night.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Yep. See ya. I'll stop this guy and then that's it.